Hi, Freelancer. Welcome to today's episode of the Freelance Blueprint. I'm your host, Lizzie, a freelance UX designer and digital nomad. Today, we're joined by Maham. Maham is an Instagram marketing specialist helping other entrepreneurs improve their online presence. She runs her own agency, of course, manages her own social media, and on top of that is a mom. We've connected a while ago, as many of my guests, through the magic of Instagram, so I'm excited to have you here as a guest today and learn more about a freelance journey. Hi, Maham. Where are you calling from today?
Hello, I am from Pakistan. Where are you these days?
I'm back home in Austria, so I'm staying in
Oh,
my sister's place now. If I wouldn't know anything about you, but I would meet your husband, how would he
yeah.
describe you to me?
You would probably describe me as someone who lives under a rock when it comes to current events outside my work bubble, because, you find it very amusing that someone in social media can be so out of the loop. I'm more about like planned content for professional accounts, instead of like sharing my pictures and personal profiles and stuff. But, he would also say like, I bring a lot of energy and positivity because I definitely have that big sister vibe to the family. Listener, thoughtful advice, sort of stuff like, the business and personal matters. So yeah, I guess that's how you would probably.
Nice. So you're doing marketing, social media, all these kind of things. How did you get started?
I have always been a reader, right? Which is something that I stopped when I had kids, but I was always a reader. And then I started making book covers. I don't know if you know Wattpad, but people would write their own books and make their own book covers. So I started making book covers and I got into graphic design. And then when it was time to get a degree, I wanted to, master in marketing. And that just, it just kept the ball rolling. I did a lot of online courses and I started learning everything that goes into marketing. Projects started coming in my teens when I would just tell people, and I would be like, I would do that really, really, really cheap, right? But like, it was there. It was something that as a teenager, you're like, oh, I'm getting a project, I'm getting a freelance gig. From there, it was like then full scale marketing. And then now it's still a full scale marketing agency, but with my marketing, I'm more specialized in Instagram now, so that's what people approach me for initially. That's sort of my journey.
So you say you have an agency now. How did you transition from freelancing, from those book covers into having a full agency?
Life through it that way, but I think it was so interesting how it happened. And I think it's something that everyone should be applying if they have a busy life, especially and to scale. What happened was, like if I have more projects than I have time to do it, right? When I had kids and everything. So I didn't have enough time to work through it all by myself. So I started getting team members and then, things get complicated. So I registered myself. And then all of a sudden I realized, wait, I'm like actually running an agency now because I have a team member for everything, right? And this was like probably 5-6 years ago. I've been freelancing for more than a decade, but like this agency registration just probably 5-6 years ago. Then I had a team member for everything and I would do the strategy because that's where the experience that you get out of all those years, then you want to apply that for the clients instead, right? So yeah, that's how I got a team and then I registered it, and it just more scalable, less time consuming, and you stop selling your own time, right? And then it's easier to retain clients and then make sure that one's properly strategized and in their emotions before getting the next client on board, so that's sort of. Is that making sense?
Yeah. So you basically got a lot of demand, figured out that if you do it alone, you won't have time for your children or life in general. So you got support, and that created a team. I
Yeah.
didn't know you've been in the industry for like 10 years. Did you always know you wanted to be a freelancer?
I think it happened, with it was just graphic design out of passion initially, right? And then like some uncle or aunt would see, okay, now she's designing. So, okay, you know what, we're publishing a book. Can you do our book cover? We're starting this brand. Can you do our logo? That sort of thing. And it just naturally started from there. Branching out into the international clientele was very intentional and very difficult. How everyone asks you favors and you get started in that realm and then you get your portfolio done and everything. So that was very natural when it started.
Do you remember how you got your first international client?
Oh, yes. So it's a little controversial. Um, I wanted to get into the US clientele. And, while I'd done some projects from Upwork or family and friends for graphic design, I didn't have international social media retainer clients or portfolio for international projects for that matter. And I had been working on building my own Instagram profile. So I got an offer to work on a fitness trainer's Instagram account. But since I didn't have a portfolio for it, they wanted me to do the first month for free, right? And you hear left and right that, don't work for free. And the Instagram is full of this posts telling you, you have to charge a certain amount to make them value you. Okay, so what I did was I made a contract of 3 months with them, and I would work for free for the first month. And if I achieve my targets, they will continue for the paid service, right? And I work with a team, so I invested my own money. I ran her IG for a month free of cost. And you know what happened? I didn't just retain her. I got a referral, and that person referred me to someone. And it was a snowball effect. And I'm not working with her anymore, but her referral, that person I'm still working with, and I think it's almost 3 years, right?
Nice.
So do what works for you, right? People think you have to charge a certain amount. Or already they already have people coming to them. If you need that first big project, I feel that you need to get your foot through that door, and you sort of need to think creatively how to get in there, right? Do you align with that? Do you agree with that?
It wasn't really, it was kind of a freelance gig because I wasn't employed, but my first UX project where I designed an app end to end, that was for a friend for free. And it was for exactly that reason, because I didn't have much experience. I worked in a startup, but the app already existed and I just did small tweaks. And I felt like I want a project where I show everything I can do. And I designed that for free. But that project specifically, when I got my very first UX permanent job, the person who hired me said it was because of that project, because he needed someone that was very focused on UI. And I didn't even feel like that was an UI project. It was a end-to-end project, but he liked the look of it. And that's why he hired me. And it's easy to say once you earn money to not work for free. Of course, once you've reached a certain level and a certain authority and experience, don't work for free. Maybe there are occasions where I would still do it if it's a charity or something for a cause very close to my heart. But also this kind of expectation that you work for free. And I think that's so crazy in the design industry because you don't have it anywhere else. If you need your car fixed, you don't tell them, oh, show me what you can do for free. If the car still drives in a month, maybe I can come back to you next time. Nobody does that. But it's so common in the creative industry. How do you feel, especially you're based in Pakistan, you're working or aiming also to work with more Western clients. How do you feel they are dealing with this whole, because I can imagine they're going to be like, oh, but you're not in the US, you're not in Europe. Why are you charging that? How do you deal with that?
So naturally, I do have to charge a bit less than than someone who has an agency in New York, right? So I was just doing like sort of a competitor analysis today, and I saw an Instagram account based in NYC, and I was like, okay, I can't charge that because they will not work with me because I'm not in NYC if I charge that, right? So that is natural and understandable. And the thought process behind that is that the cost of living here is less, but it's really not. If you want to use the same product, it's actually more costly for us because we have like 200% import taxes or what, I don't know.
Wow.
So, yeah, but that thought process exists, so that's how it is, right? Now the industry has evolved to a point a lot of people have enough confidence or information or knowledge to be able to charge more than, initially there was more of this concept, or maybe that's, where I am right now, where, initially was more of like, oh, we're from Pakistan and we can't charge as much. But now that we've grown out of that a lot, because this was my entire conversation with Christo as well, right? What do we do with the pricing? Like the kind of pricing you're mentioning, like we can't do that. So while I wouldn't go exactly match the price that a New York agency is charging, I definitely know how to position myself to charge more than than what we were expected to initially,
Yeah. Most of the Freelance Blueprint listeners, at least from the statistics that I get from Spotify, And it surprises me because almost half of them are from the US, and then a big bunch in the UK, rest is Europe, a little bit from Asia and Africa, but it's a low amount. And I wonder, maybe I just don't reach those audiences, but I also feel like for us, it's very easy. I don't want to say easy because it's still hard, but it's easier to start freelancing because our worst case scenario is we move in with the parents, you know? And in other cultures, it's actually, you can't move in with the parents because you provide for your parents. They don't have a pension or they
Right.
don't have like an income. So you have to make it work. So for them, it's very hard to charge high rates because people have this reputation of, oh, you're in the Philippines, or, oh, you're in Nigeria. So why should you charge the same as an agency in, or like a freelancer in the US? What
Yeah.
tips do you have for someone like you were in those shoes a while ago and you said you managed to increase
Yeah.
your rates? What tips do you
Yeah.
have for other people in that situation?
I would say stop thinking about where you're sitting. Everyone's working off Zoom after COVID. That's what changed, right? Everyone everywhere, including the people who are working from US, are working from Zoom, right? So yes, they have, like, in social media, they have an edge that they can go and film for them. But apart from that, it's literally like, it's not just not all the, for example, the agency in NYC would not just have NYC clients, right? They could have clients from any other state as well. So it's all from Zoom now, right? What I did was I stopped thinking in terms of country and in terms of where I am, because it's a Zoom call, right? And focus more on, if, for example, my entire marketing channel is Instagram, all right? And that's ample enough for me. I would say just build your authority there, right? You show that you can do the work, and then let them not care about where you are. Like, it has happened with the client I signed this week. I was on a call with them and everything was done and finalized almost. And then in the end, she was like, wait, where are you from? I'm like, Pakistan. So,
She didn't
like,
even
it
know.
really didn't matter. It really didn't matter, right? Because she just wanted to work with me, right? And she literally didn't say anything at that. She was like, okay. And we just moved forward, and I just, we just finalized the terms. And it wasn't a thing at all.
I also think it's shifting lately, especially with what you said. Everyone's working online, and people
Yeah.
realize that there are really, really smart, creative people all over the world, not just in the US or Europe. I think the up and coming markets, I mean, everyone used to outsource to India, but then there was also this reputation, or if you get it done in India, they don't do it right, this, that. But then there are really, really good developers, designers, marketing people in India,
There.
And then everyone started to go to the Philippines and Indonesia, etc. And it's great to see that the countries which did not have access to these opportunities, they can now work from home. They can now have a little bit more of
Yeah.
this whole marketing or whatever budget it is clients have. And I
Definitely.
really like that, because it's so weird that we are the rich ones, if you look at the whole world map. And the main
Yeah.
reason we're rich is because we stole from them. That's how it is. If you look, I mean, I had a discussion about this with my dad, and my dad's like, you're so political. And it's like, yeah, but everything's political. Anyway, I'm not going to stop with that because everything's very, but
That's an iPhone, right?
yeah. But also, I feel like often with what you said, people sometimes fall into a place or fall into a certain industry, like what you mentioned with your uncle or someone in the family wanted a book cover, and then you did a logo, and
Yeah.
then you did this, and you somehow ended
Yeah.
up in marketing. But then maybe other people ended up in a niche, and then they're like, oh, actually, this doesn't excite me. It's not a passion project. How would you deal with maybe changing your niche, or maybe even changing the services that you offer?
So there's no one size fits all answer to this. It depends on where you're getting your clients right now and how drastic of a change in your niche you want to do, right? So, for instance, I was a graphic designer, right? And then got into the marketing services and then niche down to Instagram marketing. It was service-based niching, and it was within the same realm of things. So someone getting branding done would often sign on for website and social media as well. So what really changed was that I started presenting myself as an Instagram expert in my marketing, and let the rest of the services be secondary to when those Insta clients need those services, right? because this is the age of expats, right? You can't do everything for everyone right now. Either you niche down with industry or service, right? So on the other hand, if I had wanted to, let's suppose, go from mostly having skincare clients to mostly having coaches as clients, right? So if I wanted to do an industry shift, I would need a case study, right? So either I had already done a project for a coach, or I pitch a discounted one to the first coach, explaining them the situation and get myself a good example and a good case study, and direct all my marketing efforts, in my case, Instagram account content, towards marketing for coaches, right? So what I did and the results I achieved, I share that on my Instagram with that one case study, and then, get others more confident in what I can do for them as a coach.
How did you, like you mentioned before, the collaboration you did with Christo, and
Yeah.
also you market yourself. And of course, that's your selling point. You're like, your audience are people who want to market themselves on Instagram. You market
Yeah.
yourself on Instagram, and you
Yeah.
managed to get a collaboration with Christo. How did this happen? And people who want to reach out to content creators, or I don't know what the proper term is, what tips do you
Yeah.
have for them? And yeah, basically tell me about this. I want to know.
Okay. So this is literally the most asked question in my DM, especially for the time that I had that IG live pinned on my profile. It was literally the question I was asked every day. I have shared a script for people because everyone was asking me about it. And it's just like pinned as my first reel. So people can just, grab that script and customize it in a way. But what essentially it is, my thought process was, I had been engaging with them for a while, because I was, the true fan. And then I would like comment and like, and not because I want to develop the relationship, but because I genuinely wanted to, right? So that had been going on for years. Then I would DM once in a while, just I don't remember what now. What happened was, I got to thinking, I was like, if I want him to do an IG live with me, and I was big on IG lives those days, I was like, it has to be something that he hasn't talked about. And it has to be providing a unique angle for me, right? Because I had 1,800 followers and he had, I don't know how many 100K followers. And he wouldn't want to do a collab with me if I had nothing to offer, right? So if we just blankly go and ask him that, oh, can you please do a collab with me? Obviously, he's going to say no, right? So that was my thinking process. And I'd heard his interviews and how he had mentioned that if a message is like just a lot of text, I never read it. And so these were things that I had in mind of what he likes, what he doesn't like, and what he has talked about and what he hasn't talked about. And it always nagged me when they talk about pricing and it's like very high and it didn't fit my mindset at all, right? So then I pitched him that. I was like, I've literally heard all your videos and, you've always talked about pricing, especially his pricing with Michael Janda conversation, because I had a collab with Michael Janda as well. So I told him about that and I was like, I want to discuss this with you because I don't feel like the process that you guys shared applies to me and so many others who are not in US, right? Or UK. Like I know UK can charge the same, but so I was like, it doesn't apply to us. So he was like, okay, let's chat on this. I was just like, wait, really? So that's how it came about. Yeah. That's
Nice.
it.
Wow.
Just having an angle that, that benefits them in a way, or just comes from a new, perspective that they haven't talked about. I feel like you have to have some uniqueness for them to say yes when you're so small, like such a small account.
Yeah, I also think it's quite interesting, like just to sum it up, if I understand it correctly. So basically, you've been following him for a while. You've been
Yeah.
engaging with him. So it's not that you came out of the blue. You had a question for him where also he hasn't discussed it elsewhere, like in the topic itself, but not from that angle. And then you
Yeah.
just talk to him about it. And also, I think one thing that many people don't often do is they just ask. Like I had guests on this podcast who I was like, what? You said yes to this?
Yeah.
And it's just, and also I went through this phase and I talked to, I don't want to teaser too much the guests that are coming because in my brain, it's always like, there could always go something wrong. What if I don't know, it gets moved or then it doesn't happen, so I don't want to jinx it. But there's this woman, she's also talking a lot about social media marketing on Instagram.
Yeah.
And we should have recorded tomorrow, but it got moved. So that's why I'm like, I don't want to jinx it. And she had this podcast and she was talking about just asking for things. Because the worst thing that can happen is that they say no. But if you don't ask, they don't know that you want to do that. They don't know that this opportunity exists. And after she had this podcast, I literally messaged her, I just listened to your podcast, so I'm just going to ask. Yeah. And she said, yes. She was like, sure, here's my assistant, find an appointment, let's do it. And it's like, wow, this was way easier than done. And also, I'm actually going to have a recording with Michael Janda after yours, because I also just messaged him, like, do you want to do this? So he's also going to be on the podcast. So,
oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, he's amazing to talk to. It was great, the live with him. Oh my God.
What topic did you discuss with him?
It was something similar, but it was just so natural, we just got to talking. It was just very natural.
Nice.
And then we stayed in touch, like over DMs. He's just amazing.
So many people talk, like you just lit up, so many people, like it always comes with the topic with like, when you're on social media, etc., his name always drops. It's always the same name. Michael Janda, Christo, Vin, I don't know if I pronounce his name properly, Vin Jiang. But it's always the same names that pop up. And every time it's Michael Janda, everyone's like, he's probably the nicest person on Instagram.
Oh,
so, yeah. And I find it quite impressive if someone's this big that people, like he still has time to message everyone and people don't feel like, oh, he thinks he's better than me, it's quite nice.
That's I think that's a specialty. Like he's able to talk to everyone and make them feel special, like no matter what size your account is.
Yeah. How has your experience been with communicating with other people on Instagram? Because I guess you'll connect with a lot of them based on your offering, especially. What has it been like for you since you started on Instagram?
It's been interesting. There are all kinds of people there, right? I've even like recruited people from Instagram. I have been recruited from Instagram, so seeing both sides of that conversation. So there's been like all kinds of experiences when talking to people, right? There have been those direct, okay, you know what, we need this thing done, and then okay, let's get on a Zoom call and bam, 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 right? All that. And then there have been people who would maybe, sometimes send a DM to criticize you if your gender or if your head cover, not really gender, more head cover, or, those just get blocked in an instant. I really don't care, right? So there are all kinds of people that drop into your DMs, and there are some people who would just keep sharing their own reels and their own posts, and it's like, okay. But it's amazing when, some people just you don't know how many people are in awe of you, right? And they just, the way they talk to you just makes you feel so special, and you're just like, is this me they're talking about? Is this, do they really know me? Like, what's happening here? So there's a lot of like, especially the girls from my country that follow me, they give me a lot of respect in my DMs, and they make me feel very, very, very special. So it's definitely, I find it hard to keep up with DMs or WhatsApps or any sort of messaging communications, but it just feels very good to read them and respond to them and communicate with them and just help out over DMs for those who, some people just don't want to get into the service. They just need help with like one thing or two, or they have a question, especially me not being, again, in US, or like a lot of girls message me if like head cover is causing you problems in your work, and some Pakistanis would message me how you would take payments, and a lot of people just need help with these little questions, and that's what drops into my DMs most of the time, and I love that.
Honestly, I'm fangirling because I'm from a very, very privileged background, but my mom is Thai. So I also see from where my cousins are, just because, and we're the same generation. We have the same grandmother, and for them, the opportunities they have, simply because of where they are born, the countries they can easily access to, or the opportunities because they didn't really learn proper English at school. So not speaking English just cuts so many opportunities from you. And considering you're in Pakistan, I don't want to know what it is, because it's probably super, super hard. But I've not been to Pakistan, but I've been in places like Morocco. I've been in some countries where, as a woman, you just look down at, you're just seen
Okay.
as lesser than.
Yeah.
And it's that you for yourself created an agency while raising children, while uplifting other women in Pakistan to show like what's possible, and managed to get yourself in front of Christo, Michael Janda. That's quite an achievement. Like, I think you can be very, very proud of yourself. I'm not surprised that you have some people like really commenting and DMing you and fangirling on you, because I think
Um,
it's very difficult to get to this stage.
no, thank you for that, first of all. But really, so I know like different countries have like different cultures, but within the countries, you have different dynamics as well, right? So I don't know if this is appropriate for this, but like, thank God for like, I have a very supportive environment around me, like where I am. Um, it's surprising for a girl to be very, like, too much on doing these educational videos and not whatnot. But the trend is really, really popping up now, and like a lot of people are more open to it. And for myself, like everyone around me, my family, my side, my husband's side, everyone's very, very supportive, and I wouldn't be able to do it without, right? Because when I said going freelance to agency, a lot of people are hesitant about it. And I'm sorry, that's okay. I'm going back to that topic. But a lot of people are hesitant about it because they feel like they need an office space for it. And they need to sort of change the entire work dynamic. My agency is virtual, and I know so many girls here, like not so many girls here, but I know so many girls all over, or like a specific one or two agencies here that are run by the girls who are doing it virtually, because we generally more need to stay at home with the kind of responsibilities we have. That's just how it is, right? And then work from home is actually, you can still have an agency, you can still register, you can still have a team, you just manage it differently, right? You just do more WhatsApps and Zooms, right? And you can't do all that without the support of your family if you're working from home, right? So for this podcast, my husband has come from the office earlier and he's looking after the kids, right? So that's why I'm being able to talk to you peacefully.
Thank you, husband.
So my culture does support me, like at least my environment does. Yes, there are like interior areas where it's not the same for the women. And then, then there's like a middle ground, and there's like a more, like, so there are like steps, I think, within a country as well. There's like framings of what people are open to and what not.
It's always based on your surrounding. I've seen people from,
Yeah.
like, I travel a lot. I've met people that, I don't know, come from wherever. And
Yeah.
it feels like no matter where you're from, and that's the thing that I love about traveling, it does not really matter where you're from. It's your surrounding. And even though you might have come from a certain place, from a specific surrounding, if you feel like, actually, this is not me, I don't want to be like those people, I have a bigger goal for myself or want to see more, and you
Yeah.
get out of this bubble with or
Yeah.
without your support from family and friends, and then
Yeah.
you'll see that so many people have the same needs, and all of
Yeah.
them are so grateful for either the people they met, or people that helped them along the way. And it's just so beautiful when you just meet someone and you have this, we all have these unconscious biases, and then you meet someone where you realize, oh, actually, I have this bias, but this person
Yeah.
completely showed me that that's, and the more you
Yeah.
travel, the less of these biases, like the more you become aware of the biases you have,
Yeah.
and the more of them you can get rid of, because you learn that these are based on wrong stories. These are based on, even if I'm not even just talking about cultural biases, or if someone's from this country, they can't, their work can't be worth this much because
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
I'm also talking about biases like, I didn't grow up with an entrepreneur mindset. I was always told, get a job, get your A level, finish this study, otherwise you can't find your job. Don't take on this freelance project, it's not secure, all this kind of stuff. And that was my bias until I was like, actually, why? And you need to start questioning all of this. So yeah, I think it's quite remarkable that you created an agency and do everything you're doing. So you have your agency, you have your children, you do social media marketing for yourself, for your clients. How do
Yeah.
you manage all of this? And how do you still manage to have time for your family and friends?
I still have that full marketing agency, right? We still do like brandings and websites and everything. So just this week, we signed this old client with like 3 branding projects and 1 website. The third thing that I work on is me and my husband have a fashion brand together, right? So it's a men's clothing brand. So you know how you mentioned entrepreneurial mindset. So basically, his father, my father, our uncles, we're all like, they're all business owners. So we come from like a family of business owners. So this is like a thing in us. And then he is a fashion designer and I'm a marketing strategist. So we brought that together. And so he's doing like the fashion designing, production and logistics, and I'm doing the branding, marketing, and sales. So we have this clothing brand together. So managing is like really weird for me. It was like the stay at home concept. I try to like block off some time, like afternoons, like where I know the kids will be busy, you know, having their like entertainment time with like their screen times or playing times. So then at that time, I know that, you know, I have this 2 hour chunk where I can just sit and do the work. And that's mainly why I transitioned into an agency model. And that's what I wanted to, that's why this was like the most important topic for me today, because a lot of people don't have the time and they have that demand, right? I focus more on the strategy aspect, and then I can't do this without my team at all, right? So those are the people, and then the rest of the day I have them on WhatsApp. And I'm just, so whatever I need to sit and do, I do in like a 2 hour window in the afternoon, and then or I would just like, if I have more work, then I would just have like wake up before everyone else and have a 2 hour window there as well, and then you know just I work in windows. And then I have my WhatsApp on me all the time. So then the rest of the day is for the family, you know? I don't know if that's relatable, but that's how my day goes.
I always try these like windows, these time blockings and this, that, but I always get so distracted because, for example, I'm planning to do this specific Figma design for a client, even if it's just a component page, whatever it is. And then I'm like, oh, I need this logo. Okay, they've emailed it to me. And then I'm in my emails and I see all my other emails, you know.
Yeah.
So the time that I want, the task that I wanted to do, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm doing the emails. I can't just find this one email, get the logo asset that I need, and then
Yeah.
continue with the main task.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
start to do the other task. And then maybe I see this email and it's like, oh yeah, can you send me XYZ? And it's like, oh yeah, let me do this. And I don't know what it is, but I can't just stick to one task and finish it.
I
Do
hear
you
you.
have any tips for that?
Listen, my work is Instagram. Okay. So I would open it to respond to someone or to do some research, and then I would just sign. And then it's gone, right? So 30 minutes are gone and you don't know what happened. Yes, I hear you completely. And I work with to-do lists. I can't do anything without to-do lists, whether it's my personal life or professional. If you would ask me to get you something from a grocery store, I'll put it in my to-do list. I can't do it without. So mine is more on my phone. So you know, I know if I don't finish, like I know I have this podcast, right? And I know if I don't prep for it already, then I'll have to work in the night, right? So if I don't use my afternoon block, and a deadline's a deadline, right? So if I have that meeting tomorrow and I'm not today working in my afternoon slot, it's just, you know, then I just stay up at night after everyone's asleep, get my coffee, and then just finish it off. And then I actually like working at that time more, you know? I like working in the night when everyone's asleep. I love that.
For me, it's not so much because I don't have a family to manage or stuff like that, but I just feel I prefer doing stuff in the morning with my friends, like going surfing, having a brunch, and then just
That
work. Because then I don't, I feel like if there's something else I have to do after, I can't sit still. Like I have a friend's birthday party in the evening, and it's like I'm looking forward to go there, but also I feel like, I still have to do this. Like I need to do this other thing. So I prefer to get everything done in the morning and then sit down and just do the work. but also managing my times. I tried so many things. I tried time blocking. I have my to-do list. I have everything in my Google Calendar. I set a task at the time that I feel like I should get it done by to get everything else done. And then I spent so much time shifting those tasks around because I didn't manage to do it.
Oh my
And
God,
they do say they do say about what's it called, the Parkinson effect, that if you say it takes me 2 hours to clean my flat, it's going to take you 2 hours, you know?
yeah,
And I tell myself it's going to take an hour to finish the homepage of whatever project.
yeah,
It never does. It either, sometimes it takes 5 minutes. Well, it doesn't really, but most of the times it overruns because I do all these other tasks in the meantime. So I call it productively procrastinating. So I still do things that need to get done, but not the thing that I should be doing. So
yeah.
yeah, tell me, how do you do that? Because
I trust me, I love messing with my to-do list and organizing and reorganizing it and watching videos on how to organize it. I'm like, that's it, Maham. You've watched enough of organization videos. Just get to it. And then, there are those days when you just can't, right? And then there's those productive, energy-filled days where
I don't have those. I don't know about those.
I have mixed days. I have days when I really don't want to, and I'm just like, okay, just do what's necessary, do what's on the deadline, and then I would have days where I would just go the extra mile and just finish off my entire list. And yeah, I don't know. When it's something that, needs to get done, then it gets done, I guess.
That's the funny thing. For me, I don't think it's so much of, okay, I set 2 hours aside for this task and it's going to happen. It's more that if there is a deadline, then it's going to happen. So
Exactly, yeah.
Maybe I have ADHD or something, I don't know. But I can design so many things that would normally take me 3 days in
Yeah.
3 hours or less. If a client is like, oh, we have a last minute presentation, can you quickly do this?
I hear you. Yeah, we're so similar. I actually asked my doctor, I was like, maybe I'm ADHD. And I was like, please stop talking about that. I'm like, "No."
But also there's so many things nowadays where like, do I have ADHD? Do I have this? Do I have that? Or there's
Yeah,
this spectrum of this. But also so many freelancers, so many entrepreneurs have that. And I wonder, is this just a thing self-employed people do? Or is it just a pattern that if you have those habits, you're just
Yeah.
better off as a freelancer than working for someone else? Yeah.
Well, maybe. I mean, so he just said, he was like, it's not causing any problems in your life, particularly. It's just how your nature is, and just let it go at that, right? If you go down the rabbit hole of whether it's ADHD or it's this, whether it's that, it's like there's just too much awareness these days. It's like there's something called too much awareness, and that's where you guys are at right now. And it's not, it's not the people who have it in real, let them get diagnosed instead of just putting yourself into that mix, sort of.
Well, it's true. I mean, but also I think it's good to be aware that those things exist because it
Yeah.
can explain a few things. It's like, okay, this
Yes.
is just normal. For some people, maybe it's not normal, but there are other people in similar situations. So it is normal. You're not the only one who does it
Yeah.
like this. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when it comes to finding clients and marketing yourself, once you got that client, what's your process on delivering your services?
So my clients are generally through Instagram myself. So once a client's on board, I do an initial strategy call with mood boards and existing brand elements and content direction. The only thing I've done at this point is research and develop a direction. The objective is to see if it aligns with the client's vision. So no content or design is actually made at this point. And I think this is the most essential step in our entire journey. Once we have gone over this, we have another call with some sample designs and content so they can see the direction that their own brand is taking. Now that, we've seen some sample accounts, now that we've, in the previous call, discussed the direction that it needs to go in. The second call, they actually see some content that's going to go up on their own account, some designs that are going to go up on their account to make sure we're all on the same page, because this is when we're starting out, right? With the feedback on that, we start populating their own Trello board. So have you used Trello?
Yeah.
So what we do is basically we have lists of months, all right? So we would populate a new list and, just put all the posts up in separate cards. And the process is that we first put up the written content of like what's actually going to go in the capsule or the video or the or infographic and whatnot. So what the captions and everything. And then once the text of it is approved, and we're doing this very neatly labeled, I'm very OCD about this. The client can leave it in a comment, or sometimes they just message me on WhatsApp, like, oh, it's all approved. Or if they're more particular, they would leave comments all over. But, and then I would just go change the labels. So basically, yes. So all the posts are then, you can just see them at a glance, and then you can see the comments at a glance on wherever they do need changes, wherever it's approved. And once the content's approved, we work on the visuals. So whether it's video editing, whether it's graphic design, then we upload the visuals, and then, we let them know we've changed the label. You can go ahead and like check that, and then, approved, change this here, change this, that. All the 30 posts or however many posts we've agreed upon are done and there for the client to see beforehand. This is something that they're all very nervous about when they're initially starting. So it's all there for them to see, okay, this is what's going to go up. So once the posts are all there, then we move on to the other aspects of Instagram, right? Like who we're going to engage with, starting the engagement, starting the stories, starting the ManyChat integration. ManyChat integration, I usually start in the second month if the account's not very active, because they're not, mostly when an account comes, it has 0 comments. And then the first month, we're working on the engagement, and, we bring it up to 8 to 10 comments. So then in the second month, I integrate ManyChat, basically, because that's when we're, trying to scale the comments. And then the list is endless, right? The things that you need to do on Instagram for growth, and then just constant analysis that we do, and then checking everything, what's working, what's not working. We would start creating the post on the 15th, like 15 days prior, so that, everything's smooth sailing. We can first have an analysis strategy sort of pull for the next month, and then you can populate Trello with the next month's content, and then let you have some time for approval, so all that. Try to make it a smooth sailing process for both sides. I think that's about it.
It's actually crazy how much there is to do for social media, and we're just talking about Instagram. There's so many other platforms people are on. It's mad.
I mean, my thing has always been that, just grow one platform, right? Whichever one you choose. You choose YouTube, you go for that. You choose, I don't know, my thing is Instagram. I really can't think ahead of that. Some people ask me that, we also need you to do this platform. Like, I can repost. Maybe I can repurpose the content and repost if that's what the platform requires. But I am no expert on that platform on how to actually grow, because posting is not enough to grow, right? So that's something that needs to be communicated again and again and again. That posting is not enough to grow. Everything I know is about Instagram, and maybe you can apply some of that to the other platforms, but this is what I work with, right? And I can just repost on other platforms, and that's it.
If you would have to do it all over again today with the knowledge that you have now, would you do it, and how?
So yeah, I would definitely start with an Instagram account. Be very specific to what one service or industry I'm an expert in, and how I can help my target audience, right? And I would always keep a little budget to boost certain posts, but mainly prioritize collaboration. And yes, you can get them as a smaller account, as we have discussed. For still, I was at 1,800 followers. I think he was at 700,000 followers or something. So anywho, I would get that reach with engagement, collabs, and boosts, so I can get more eyeballs on what I'm trying to sell, which will be neatly tucked away in highlights and bio. And I would take up the first project for like free of charge or heavily discounted, and try to make an excellent example out of it, and, use my methods and learning, there as my Instagram content. So to let people see my process, and make that my case study. And that should be enough to make Instagram the only source of content, the only source of clientele for me. And I would not extend myself on multiple platforms for sure. And I would expand on Instagram as much as possible. And that, I know provides enough clientele to not have to grow another account or on another platform if I don't have the bandwidth for it.
Nice. For freelancers who, because I know how much effort social media is on top of all the other things that you actually have to do as a freelancer,
Yeah.
social media is like, I understand why there are social media managers because it's a huge task. For freelancers who want to build an online presence and are maybe considering outsourcing, maybe they're not sure if they're big enough to outsource, what tips do you have for them when it comes to their presentation on Instagram?
Um, if they're thinking about outsourcing, I would say they should, look up the accounts that are actually giving the service and look up what and how they're doing it and their pricing. And you'll be surprised sometimes you find the right people to do the back. And then you should also know your own strengths and weaknesses, right? So if let's suppose you have the budget, right? Then you just simply get the best expert that you can find and just go for it, right? But let's suppose you do not have that big of a budget, right? Then a lot of times, you need to see where your strength is. So maybe your strength is in the strategy, but not in the design aspect. Then you get a designer because people do judge a book by its cover. If it's more towards, okay, you are a designer, but your posts aren't growing because you don't know how to grow, then either you can, get like a strategy call or like consultations if you don't have the budget to actually let them do it. Because what I've faced in getting coaching myself, and I don't prefer doing coaching unless it's a very special request by someone who, I really need to do it for. One thing that I've noticed in coaching is the ones that I've got myself sometimes, it's one thing to talk about a hypothetical brand. It's another thing to actually do it, right? So a lot of them are very good. I'm not saying the coaches are not good. I'm saying you have to be very particular when selecting the right coach because it's an expensive course. And then when you see the price tag, you go like, oh, he must know what he's talking about, right? And then you apply everything that they say and it's like crickets, right? Like what happened? Yeah. And then something about what you did makes you feel like, okay, maybe it was me, but it's not always you. It's about what you were coached, what strategy you were given, right? Because most of those accounts are not actually growing any account. They're just coaching, I mean, there are a lot of coaches I love, absolutely love. So it's not shade on coaches. It's about people who are not equipped to coach, but are presenting themselves that way,
Yeah. I think especially nowadays, everyone call themselves a coach. Like, I
Yes,
don't
yeah.
call myself a coach, but it's somewhat what I'm doing. And I've never officially studied it. I never really learned how to
And
do it.
that you're sharing your experience, right? You have a lot of experience, like with your back and what you've done, and you coaching someone based off that experience makes absolute sense. Makes absolute sense. So anyone who is going for coaching just needs to make sure that the person who's there actually has that, loaded experience instead of just having done their own account or one account or two accounts or one website or two websites and then they're just trying to coach or get coaching clients because, that's just more scalable and whatnot.
I also noticed with coaching that I took myself, some coaches, even though they know what they're doing, they just had their own way of doing it and that worked for them. For example, my coach at the moment tells me to cold outreach to people on DMs and things like that. And it's just like, I don't want to do it. I also don't want to, like, it's not that I don't want to talk to people, but I don't want to
Yeah.
go there with the aim to sell to them. I understand why it works for some people, but for me, it's icky. But that's maybe a mindset thing that I need to work on.
I
But
hear
on
you.
the social media part and Instagram, at what stage would you recommend freelancers who are having a one-on presence already to outsource their Instagram or other social media?
I would say that you need to make sure that you are making that money somewhere that you're investing, right? There are people who I've had clients who just come up to me and go like, we're taking a loan because we want to work with you. And that always makes me feel uncomfortable. Because I mean, okay, thank you for that trust. From a business mindset, I would say that, just make sure you have that amount first. Like, for example, for 3 months of getting that service, right? As a freelancer, you can get a lot of work from Upwork and then if you're a designer, 99 Designs, I used to love 99 Designs. That was ages ago, so I don't know what's up with that now. but it used to be such a higher price point than Upwork or, any of those sorts of things. So, you have all of that space where if you have the time, then you just gather that money to be able to invest in building your own brand. So you don't need those platforms. And so you can charge more because you can charge so much more when you're not working off Upwork, right? So, because then you can show your authority. People are coming to you, and that changes the game for you, right? But I feel like you do all that side work and make sure you have that amount. And once you're there and you feel like, I am no longer satisfied working for this much amount, I want to grow, I want my own brand, and I have the money to invest in it, that's when you at least keep in mind to invest for 3 months. Best is 6 months. Because if no matter who you hire for whatever services where there's accountability, there's whether it's Instagram management, whether it's Facebook ads management, if you hire someone for 1 month and at the end of the month tell them, I didn't get any clients, so I'm not doing this, you have wasted your own money because it's a cold dead account or it's a new account and that team is trying to get it off from the ground, right? So it takes some momentum, it takes some time, especially if you're low budget and you're doing thrice a week posting, it takes even more time to sort of get that ball rolling, So have that 3 to 6 months budget in hand before starting it. I will then go for like Upwork and 99 designs and stuff like that to build that budget for yourself.
In a way, if it would put yourself into risk to like take a loan for an investment where you don't really know what the results is, it's always a bit risky. But if you have the money to do it and you want to free up your time, then it's probably worth it simply for the fact that you got your time back, because there's no way we ever get our time back. On that note, there are 3 questions I have for all of my guests. And one of them is, would you ever go back to a permanent job?
No, I've never had it. I'm not interested in one. I've never had a permanent job. I like being my own boss.
Nice. And if you could go back in time to when you designed that first book cover, what would you today tell your past self?
Don't use Comic Sans.
Hey, Comic Sans is so underrated. In comics, still, it is the best font.
Maybe, yes. But for like a romance book cover novel, no.
But exactly, it's always like Comic Sans was not designed to be for, I don't know, a title font or whatever, So for the purpose it was designed for, it is perfect. So stop hating on Comic Sans.
The 12-year-old girl who designed the first book cover, that was the only font that existed. There was no font library back then, like for me,
Cute.
Yeah.
And if you think of 5 years from now, where your agency will be, where your children, I think like with children, you can tell how much time has passed, how you will be. If maybe you moved house, maybe you'll still be in the same place, maybe you purchased something that you've been working on, the lifestyle you'll have in 5 years from now. Imagine who you're going to be. If your future self 5 years from now would come to you today, what do you think she would tell you?
Oh, she would probably tell me that it's okay to go slower than the pace you think you need to go at, because that's where you're at right now in your life. Like, as you said, if I'm thinking about where my kids would be, or if I'm thinking in that aspect, I think I'll be able to do so much more then. Like, I have this drive right now that gets limited by my time. So I think that girl would say, it's okay to take it slow for now and then, expand when you can, and keep that drive.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. If any of the listeners wanted to learn more about you, where can they find you? On Instagram, I guess.
Yeah, the best place is Instagram. It's maham.dolphix, my username. Maham Dolphix. Dolphix. So yeah, that's where anyone can reach me.
Thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure to talk to you, Maham.
Thank you.
This was such a lovely conversation with Maham. I hope you enjoyed listening as much as I did talking with her. As always, I'm leaving the links to learn more about Maham in the description of this podcast. If you liked this episode, please leave a review and hit the follow button. This helps the Freelance Blueprint reach more freelancers like you who can learn from the journeys of others. Feel free to share this episode with any freelancer you can think of that could benefit from listening. That's all from me, and I can't wait to have you join again next week. Bye!